From backpack to terminal guidance in 5 minutes. That's the promise, not hype. Bolt M is designed for a single operator with over 40 minutes of endurance, roughly 12 miles of range, and up to a 3-pound warhead. Stay with this, because we'll map each feature to a field benefit. Fewer specialists, faster fires, simpler sustainment. And we'll show, step by step, how drawing a bounding box on a dual EO/IR feed becomes a tracked target with configurable engagement angles under OPF-L doctrine. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Most people still picture a precision strike as a crew event. A high-hours FPV pilot on the sticks, an observer spotting impacts, a jammer truck running cover, and a tote of batteries feeding the sortie cycle. So why does Bolt M live in a single rucksack, carried by one soldier, with no convoy attached and no dedicated pilot on overwatch? The bottlenecks are well understood. Ukraine's FPV ecosystem proved you can scale effects if you can scale training and logistics, but it leans on line-of-sight video links that get shredded under electronic warfare, and it demands pilots who can fly aggressively while parsing a shaky analog feed. The observer adds another pair of eyes, but also another radio, another voice in the loop, and another failure point when the spectrum turns hostile. Add the jammer and a generator, and you've tied precision to vehicles and roads. Now put that against a Marine rifle squad moving on foot. They need precision fires that keep pace with a dismount patrol, that don't assume a van full of equipment, and that don't force a unit to carry a specialist whose only task is stick time. It was therefore a procurement problem as much as a technology problem. Shrink the crew, harden the link, and compress the timeline from cold start to terminal run-in while the squad maintains momentum. Bolt M's answer is blunt. It is man-packable. It carries an ESAD for safe handling, so live ordnance travels on a back without violating risk controls. The deployment sequence is designed to be 5 minutes from ruck to airborne. And the sensor head brings both electro-optical and infrared channels, stabilized, so the feed stays usable when the wind and the operator's heart rate don't. The change in workload comes from onboard behaviors rather than raw airframe tricks. With Lattice running at the edge, the system executes search patterns without a human sweeping the camera every second, latches onto an object you designate, and flies terminal guidance profiles that hold even if the control link starts to wash out. The human is still the decider, but the decision's compressed to 4 verbs. Where to look, what to follow, how to engage, when to strike. If you want an analogy, it is like moving from a manual rally car to a modern EV with driver assist. You still pick the route and the throttle, and the machine keeps traction through the messy parts you used to babysit. The assist doesn't win the stage for you. It just refuses to let a small mistake cascade into a ditch. This tracks with the OPF-L requirements set, which is aimed at dismounted organic precision fires that can survive contested RF and still deliver controlled effects. Contract milestones have pushed vendors toward production-class reliability on a tight schedule. So the boring details, arming logic, stored trajectories, thermal management, embedded checks, show up early rather than as afterthoughts. One way or another, the pressure has been to make a squad-level tool, not a lab demo. By this point, the practical benefits read like a checklist. Fewer trained specialists because the flying is largely procedural. Reduced cognitive load because the system takes over tracking and closure while the operator acts as a sensor manager. Faster time to shoot because the cold start doesn't require a ground station parked on a hill and a crew managing a mesh link that might not last. In any case, the mini payoff is clear. One soldier can carry Bolt M, launch it, designate a target, and hand the terminal phase to the autopilot if the link degrades without losing the run. That's the gap. OPF-L tries to close. Precision fires that stay with the squad and don't fall apart when the spectrum turns ugly. We can now move on to what that looks like minute by minute. How a backpack system becomes a bounding box on a live EO/IR feed and a confirmed attack profile. So if the claim is 5 minutes, we need to account for each minute. The first goes to power up. Unfold, connect the swap and go battery, and bring the avionics and ESAD online in a fixed order so the safety interlocks red-green. The second minute covers system checks, flight control health, link integrity, warhead status, and storage temperature, because you do not want a brownout or a hot round. The third minute initializes navigation, either GPS/INS when the sky cooperates, or a visual nav fallback when you're under canopy or in an RF mess. The fourth minute is the VTOL launch, a controlled vertical rise to a safe hover, transition to forward flight, and the first nav leg. The fifth minute stabilizes the dual EO/IR gimbal and zeroes the horizon so the feed stops drifting and the autofocus behaves. By this point, the airframe is ready, but the human still sets the pace. The operator becomes the bottleneck when the spectrum is dirty. Sensor slewing takes time, especially when the background is cluttered and the thermal contrast is low, and that's where most teams burn their minutes. You also have target discrimination work, because a moving truck and an idling generator can look similar on a shaky long lens, and link management under EW noise forces you to throttle bitrate and accept latency spikes. The workflow is designed to cut that overhead. The operator drags a bounding box on the EO/IR feed around the object of interest, and Bolt M assumes the tracking burden. It plans approach vectors that account for apparent motion and wind, and it offers engagement profiles that include standoff distance and attack angle. The operator selects, confirms fusing, and sets a commit window. The aircraft does the turns. On specifications, the airframe carries over 40 minutes of endurance. The stated range is about 12 miles. Payload capacity is up to roughly 3 pounds. Warhead options span anti-personnel and anti-materiel, with modular units from Anduril and Kraken Kinetics swapped in the field with the same mounting points and arming logic. The autonomy boundary is explicit. A human stays in the loop through the engagement order. If the link degrades during the run-in, the aircraft maintains autonomous terminal guidance and finishes the profile it was given. That keeps the probability of success high when EW scrubs your downlink at the worst moment, and it removes the need for last-second stick corrections against jamming. Lattice is the reason the inputs stay simple while the outputs get complex. It supports the decision framing. Where to look, what to follow, how to engage, when to strike. So the operator issues a few clear commands, and the system expands them into search, track, and terminal behaviors without micromanagement. In other words, you set intent and constraints, and the stack handles the path and the closure. Logistics make the 5-minute promise viable. A single operator carries the disassembled airframe and the ground station in a standard pack. Batteries swap without tools. The ground station includes embedded training and a sim mode, so workups shrink and units rehearse bounding box to commit flow on a bench with the same interface they'll use in the field. One way or another, the clock holds because the aircraft offloads flight behaviors and tracking. The operator's work compresses to rapid decisions and brief confirmations rather than continuous stick time. We can now ask the uncomfortable question: does this rucksack form factor truly replace the multi-person drone team? Or does it move the constraint to sustainment cycles, battery flows, and doctrine for who owns the shot authority inside a squad? By this point, the shift is clear. The story isn't drones flying themselves. It's precision fires becoming standard infantry kit while autonomy quietly absorbs the specialist workload. It was therefore a doctrinal change wrapped in a rucksack. So, weigh in. Does reducing the team to one operator improve resilience when squads disperse and when links get dirty? Or does it push ethical and command limits as autonomy scales across units and echelons? I'll get to the actual price a bit later, because procurement hinges on cost curves and attrition math. One way or another, OPF-L moves from trials to buying decisions, and unit budgets will force hard choices.
Signal strike.